I am Laura Dixon, and you are listening to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast, episode number 145. It's me with Tiffanie. Welcome to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast. I'm going to teach you how to get out of your diet brain so that you too can be naturally thin for life. No counting, restricting, or obsessing. I am going to take the mystery out of it for you so that you can become naturally thin starting today. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am sharing a conversation that Tiffanie and I had. She is in the Naturally Thin for Life program, and she just had her 13th child. And she shares her journey and her relationship with food and her weight. And we kind of chuckle a little bit about all the things we've tried because we do kind of drive ourselves crazy trying to find the solution, trying to find the answer. And she shares how she had this realization of finally seeing, oh my gosh, it's me. And Sue shared 2 weeks ago in episode 143 that she realized for her, the thought was, I'm my only obstacle. And Tiffanie had a similar realization, and I had a similar realization as well in my own journey, where I remember thinking, oh my gosh, it's just the way that I'm thinking about it. Like, there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing I have to find that's going to solve this. Like, I am the solution. And I can't wait for you to hear that realization that Tiffanie shares so that you can take that and apply it to you in a way that really serves you, because it is only ever you. And you, if you're the only obstacle, then it's like just the most incredible, amazing news ever, because then you're the solution and you already have all the genius and the wisdom and the brilliance that you need. It's just learning to be able to trust that, learning to be able to listen to your body, respond to what your body is saying to you, and really learning and developing and loving your relationship with the emotions in your body. So I can't wait for you to hear all of Tiffany's wisdom. And if you want the Naturally Thin for Life step-by-step process to overcome what Tiffanie calls and talks about a lot in this episode of her food brain, which I think about, and there's a separate episode about a food brain, but right, it's like that food brain that just thinks about food, obsesses about our weight. It just doesn't have a calm, freeing, naturally thin mindset. It's anything that isn't calm and freeing and being naturally thin. If you want that process to overcome your food brain and see how you are your own solution, to see how your body has the roadmap and all of the wisdom to take you to your naturally thin weight, and you just want to learn to listen to it. You want to learn to trust yourself. You want to develop the confidence that you can change your thought process. You can rewire your brain to have the freedom of being naturally thin and a body to match it. Then right now you can join the Naturally Thin for Life program for 30 days of access to the entire program. And that includes the workbook being delivered right to your doorstep. So that in these 30 days of access, you can implement the tools inside of the program and use the workbook to see how you truly are the only obstacle, and that you have the solution right at your fingertips, which is always your own brain. And I just teach you how to access your naturally thin brain to reach your naturally thin body weight. And then at the end of the 30 days, you can decide to either become a lifetime member, or you can decide to not become a lifetime member and simply keep the workbook that we've delivered to you and implement everything you learned in those 30 days. So if you are interested in joining for 30 days of access to the Naturally Thin for Life program and then potentially becoming a lifetime member, you can head over to lauradixoncoaching.com/join and get all of the details there. All right, my friends, let's dive in and hear my talk with Tiffanie. All right. So for everyone, I have Tiffanie joining us on the podcast today, and I will let you share a little bit about your journey, but maybe if you want to just share a little bit about yourself, kind of what brought you to Naturally Thin for Life, and then just share what your experience has been like. And then I have some questions for you.
So first thing right off the bat, I guess, because once this comes up, like people can't concentrate on anything else, but we have a lot of children. I have 13 kids. That's kind of the biggest identifier for who I am right now is I'm a mother of 13 kids.
And you just recently had number 13.
Yeah, she was just born at the end of May.
Side note, I told my husband, I want a couple more kids. And in his mind, like he grew up, like most of the people had like 2 kids that he knew. And I was like 5. And I told him, I said, I'm doing a podcast interview with someone that has 13 kids. So like 5 is like, we could totally do 5.
No, it's funny now because with some of our older kids gone, we'll get together at night to read before we go to bed. And right, we've got like 5 missing right now, but if one kid is gone out of the room, we're like, where is everybody?
Yeah,
even though there's still like 8 of us there.
So good. I love it.
Yeah. So with having children, I have had a lot of experience of gaining weight and losing weight. So, and each time I've kind of tried something different, and I feel like I finally learned the key of what has been missing this whole time. I actually recently just today listened to the podcast with Sue, episode 143, where she, talks about like she was her biggest obstacle. And I feel like I finally learned that, yeah, I am. And like, I'm the key to this actually succeeding because I have had some success in the past, like after my 3rd child. Okay. So this is part of my story. We went on a trip down to Florida, to Disneyland, to Disney World. And at that time, my baby was just like 2 months old. But when we got back and we were sharing the videos of our vacation and the pictures, I was just like horrified. Like I was like, and sure, I just had a kid, but still I did not know how to be healthy. So that was my first time really like kind of learning, to try to eat better and to exercise. Right. So that's been what I was doing for most of that time since then, was trying different programs, but I did really good at that. And it was pretty restrictive though. It was food combining. It was something I tried, and along with the Body for Life exercising, which I liked because that was just like 3 hours a week. So I felt like that was doable. And I did that through my 4th pregnancy. And that was like my best that I gained the least weight, I guess. I felt the best. And I felt like people told me like, oh, you're all self-actualized now. And I felt like I kind of was, but I was giving the credit to this program and the strictness of this that I was following. So with the food combining, you couldn't eat like starches and proteins together because the different pH supposedly.
Oh yeah.
So after a while I was like, I want to eat, salmon and potatoes. Like what's so wrong with that? Like, cause I wouldn't let myself do that, but I started to let myself eat with my family, kind of eat normally. And then I think because I was like, well, the diet was what was giving me the success, I started to have that doubt in my head that I'm not going to be able to keep this weight on. And it started to be this stress. And every time that I went to the doctor for my OB visits with my 5th pregnancy, I told myself I could get a cookie on the way home if it was less than, 160, especially during that last trimester. As I've learned more about my body now, I gain like almost all of it during the 2nd trimester. So I would kind of be freaking out during that 2nd trimester. But then the last trimester wasn't as bad, but I was still super nervous and I hated every doctor visit because I hated to weigh myself and I hated that I had to do that. So that's part of the story with the first few pregnancies and children.
Can I ask you one question quick? And then I want to go back to after that. What was it like for you being pregnant this time?
So I joined your program last summer and then I got pregnant in August. And so I hadn't quite reached my goal yet. I still had like 20 pounds that I think I could lose because I'm not really, based on like where I was after that 3rd pregnancy, where I was the lowest I've ever been. But yeah, so I was about 20 pounds more than I wanted to be, but I haven't had the pressure and the panic about the scale of the OB visits. And yes, that's been the main benefit from this pregnancy is I just haven't been stressed out about the weight as much. Like it still kind of tries to yell at me that this isn't going fast enough, but yeah, I'm just definitely a lot more calm and trusting of the process. And I know I'll get there because I've gotten there so many times before. I know that I will. So I'm not panicked and in a hurry trying to force it with stress.
Yeah, so good. I was thinking about this lately, just for myself and for other people, that we like want the fear to go away. Like, how do we make the fear go away that we're never going to get there? Or how do we make the fear go away that like when the scale goes up? And like, I've just been thinking about it in other goals for my life. Like, it's okay that the fear's there. Like, the fear doesn't mean anything. It's kind of like what you were saying before. Like, I'm my only obstacle. Like, I'm the only obstacle I need to overcome. And it's just like, the more we can remind ourselves, like, oh, that's right. Like, it's me. Like, which is like the best news ever because I don't need to like control other people or make other people do anything or like find some like unicorn diet somewhere. It's just like, it's me. And like, that's what I have control over. And like, for me, it's just like the most amazing thought ever. But like, I have to remind myself because my brain forgets a lot that like it is actually me.
Yeah, no, definitely. That has been like one of the most empowering things, instead of giving any diet or exercise program the credit, like it's just how I am thinking. The success so before was all of this external stuff. And now I finally realized that it's me. And even though my brain's like, well, you're not there yet, you can't go preaching about it yet. But I'm like, I know that this is finally it. I feel like I've been searching my whole life, trying so many different things, but I finally figured it out that it's me and my head and my brain. So I listened to your podcast for probably, I think I found you in December of 2020. And then I did a consult call with you that January. But during that time, I just listened to the podcast. And each time I was just like, preach it. This is it. That is so, I felt like it's just this aha moment that I finally know what's going on with my food brain. And yesterday I looked back at kind of the titles of those past episodes. Like habit hopping, I was definitely doing that. I was always trying something else. My food brain, having connection without food, like there'd be activities or gatherings and I'm like, I don't want to go there because I know they're going to have cookies and it just be this stress about it.
Yeah.
And so also making friends with hunger. Like, I'm like, I like hunger's the best. It's okay. It's okay to be hungry.
Yeah.
That's been another amazing key. Yeah.
Like, when do you think it clicked for you of like, oh my gosh, like it's me, like it's only my brain and I'm the only obstacle. Like, I think a lot of times we can like understand that intellectually, but then there's like, and I can tell just by the way you like emote when you say it is, it's like in your bones believe that to be true. It's not just like an intellectual understanding where you're like, oh my gosh, like I see it. Like, when did that change for you?
I think it was the food brain episode. I remember I was cleaning the basement and I felt like I'd finally been diagnosed with like what was wrong. I'm like, I'm thinking about food all the time because I had, at that time and we still do this. Like we eat pretty plant-based now, but I was super vegan, but I was like buying all these vegetables and forcing the kids to eat them. And I'm trying to kind of trick myself into, I have to be full enough on vegetables that I'm not tempted by the treats. I was still thinking about food all the time. So yeah, when I'm like, I have a food brain, I just felt like I had a name for this craziness that's been going on in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. That's so funny you say that. I was like super vegan. We were plant-based, or I was plant-based for a couple of years. And now I still am primarily. Every once in a while I eat meat, but I remember I felt like a very righteous vegan where I was like, this is what's going to do it. It's this way of eating that's going to allow me to be at the weight I want. And I did feel better. And like, I do still feel good when I eat that way. But it was like exactly what you were saying, thinking like there's something I'm going to find. It's some diet, some way of eating, some routine, some consistency. There's something that's going to happen that's going to allow me to be at the weight I want. And it's like,
so
it just isn't there.
Yeah, I was thinking it's the food. So I'm trying to force this on my family. It did not really go over well. There was a lot of kind of battling with my teenage boys, right? Because I'm like, you can't eat hamburgers, I don't like it's, and I still believe a lot of those things, but that's not the key to the weight loss. That's not the key to me being calm and being able to cope with myself or how I think about myself. Yeah. So
yeah, so good. Well, sorry. Do you want to go? You were starting to talk about your 5th pregnancy into your 6th, I think, and then I kind of interrupted you, so I didn't want to take you off.
So after my 5th, so we were at business school at that time, and money was a little tight, and so, but I was still going to the gym because I was like, I have to exercise, and then I try to walk sometimes, and so we could cut out the gym membership. But then we moved out to Virginia for a while, and then we moved to Brazil. So I didn't have a gym. We were living internationally. And that's when I started Body Rock. I don't know if it's still there, but I did Body Rock because that was these quick home workouts you could do. And that was super great because I was able to do it there. But I was still, again, giving that to the success and cleaving to that. Like, this is the key to help me get to where I want to be, because I totally wanted to look like that girl. She's just amazing body, and I still I'm going to get there. I know I'm going to get there. And I'm not giving up on myself, even though I'm in my 40s now. But also I remember on our flight down, so I had 5 kids in tow, and my youngest then was a year. And I know she meant it well, but I remember the stewardess looking at me and, and all the kids, and I think they're worried, but she's like, well, you look really great for having so many children. And while I appreciate the compliment, I also kind of hate that that's the way I think culture thinks about motherhood or having children, is that, if you do that, you're going to be overweight and overwhelmed. And so I've been fighting white knuckling to not be overweight. And I do pretty good at not being overwhelmed. I roll with it. I came from a large family, and I forced it upon my husband. He came from a family of only 3 kids, so it's been harder for him, but he is so amazing. And I think he makes it easier for me to be able to do all the things that I'm always trying to do. Is just what an awesome dad he is. We went down there for his business down to Brazil. And then when we moved back, I just had my 7th. And after that one, that's when I tried a half marathon. Really with each pregnancy, I was trying something else.
Yeah.
But I'd never done a marathon. And I'm like, I don't want to do a marathon because I hate running. But I'm like, I'll do the half marathon. I did it with my brother, and my weight did not change.
Isn't that the most infuriating experience ever?
I was so mad. Because and I couldn't enjoy the running because I was like, I got to get back. Baby's hungry, nursing.
Yes.
And I'm just, I did not like it. And so when I didn't lose the weight, I'm like, well, what's the point of that? Because that was my goal, right?
Yeah,
my goal is to lose the weight.
So marathons aren't it?
Marathons out. I'm glad I only did a half, because I don't need to do that. I'm not doing triathlons or anything else. I know some people probably love the Ragnars and things, being with friends. I think that could be fun, but just with our large family, I don't have time for that. So then after my 7th, that's when I did P90X. And that also made me think, because my appetite just increased like crazy. I'm like, what is the point of exercising so hard if all I'm going to do is end up eating so much? Yeah. I'm like, it seems like if we could just not exercise and not eat.
Totally. And then, right? If you have any sense of fear around hunger, where you just aren't totally calm and love your relationship with hunger, and then you exercise more and you're hungry more, it's it snowballs into a mess.
It's madness. Yeah, this is madness. So that was when I tried that. And I have tried intermittent fasting, and I did that after my 11th. But I think I was also doubting myself, though, if that was right, because just of so much diet noise. I think of, I'm going to ruin my metabolism now. I remember I did it once, a 4-day water fast, just to kind of see. And I felt amazing. I loved it. And I'm not going to do that right now because I'm nursing, but I felt this freedom finally, because I was like, I'm getting so much done around the house. I was just super productive and finally doing all the things that I've always wanted to do, but I don't do because I've always been obsessed with this struggle.
Yeah. Isn't that so interesting that I do believe it's different for different people, but a lot of times our bodies, they really appreciate a break from food. Right. And not that we need to force our bodies to do anything, but it's why I love eating once or maybe twice a day, when my body is genuinely hungry. And I love longer stretches of not eating because I'm not hungry. And my body gives me all the feedback that it loves it too. It's just when we're forcing ourselves, I have to do this in order to lose weight. Right. Then it's so not enjoyable. And I think we carry so much diet baggage and fear around hunger, and I'm going to ruin my metabolism, and all this thought process that doesn't serve us, that it then ironically takes us out of actually listening to what our body wants, which sometimes is some periods of time without digesting food.
Or also the stress over being hungry, right? I mean, that stress is going to give you this restlessness. And if you don't know how to cope with that feeling, you're going to be looking for a distraction and turning to food. I've actually, as I've made my list of all the different emotions, I think finally realizing that I'm so restless was a big one for me. That's like my main feeling. And I can definitely feel it now because with the baby and with a large family, there's so much I want to do that I usually can't get done, especially when I'm constantly interrupted by having to nurse or stopping. So yeah, I'm still learning how to cope with that restlessness, but at least I've identified it, and I know that that is what's going on. Is because I do have all these things I want to do, and if I've got to stop because the kids need help with homework, or I've got to take them to music lessons, stuff like that. It's just being able to be like, it's okay. All these projects are still there for me. Nothing's. The dishes are always there. I
Yeah.
don't need to worry about all these problems.
Can you share a little bit, if you are willing, like what is your experience like when you're in the height of a restless feeling, and then how do you work through that in a way that isn't eat all the food?
For me, I've thought like restlessness is like, I feel like I have this bouncy ball just hitting off the walls inside my body, and I'm just like scattered, so many interruptions, and like I can't think, or I don't know how to cope. But now, as I've recognized that restlessness, kind of just taking a deep breath and saying I'm feeling restless, and then kind of calmly, let's do one thing right now. I know I've got this list of 100 things that need to get done. That's just taking one fire, priority at a time.
Yeah. Isn't that so crazy? Like even just like saying to yourself, I'm feeling restless right now. It feels like a ball like bouncing all around in my chest. And like, it's not like a super time intensive practice that we teach ourselves of like, oh, this is restlessness in my body right now. And it kind of is like what you were saying before, like how in the world is it not something we teach like to all of our kids, like in school, like how to feel a feeling and recognize a feeling and like not blame other people all the time for creating our feelings and all of it. I just like the more and more I see women go through the program and I help people and I just experience it in my own life. I'm like, if everybody just knew how to feel their feelings, this would be a very different world.
Yeah, that is the key, has been the biggest blessing, is to realize. And also, think about the work of feeling your feelings. Like it's the relief. It's just such a relief. And also like, I obviously have a very strong body, having been able to, bear 13 children. As I was growing up, I always knew I was strong. And I kind of told myself I was just this stocky soccer player. So I've always been really strong. And so I know that I can do the work. I could run a marathon if I wanted to. I could do all these things and force myself to do all these things. Like I said, I've been able to keep the weight down mostly by white knuckling my way there. But now I've focused more lately with just like stretching. Like last night, I was just stretching in my closet. Like now I know I can work and that I'm strong. I'm teaching myself to relax and be calm.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to be flexible. I've always wanted to do the splits, and I'm going to learn how to do the splits. So I've been laying on this exercise ball and just kind of, instead of this hunched over tightness that I've attacked everything with, I'm learning to stand up straight, breathe, and just learn to be more calm.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you said that, because I think there is I just have a similar, or grew up anyways, with a similar thought process of like, but like I'm strong and I'm determined and I can do anything I want, with like this sort of like very tense, tight energy and like grit and grind. And so when we have that thought and then we show ourselves we sort of can do anything, then we think like that has to be the way to losing weight. And it just like, who wants to live that way forever? That sounds terrible.
Yeah. And I was like, with the P90X, it was fun, kind of, but it's crazy. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't live like this. I can't dedicate an hour and a half and then, or, like an hour of the episode. Plus, if you want the abs, you got to do the ab part too. And then I'm like, I can't be this tight. I know I've got to stretch, but I kind of didn't have time to stretch.
I don't know if you remember the P90X yoga. I think it was an hour and a half. It was like like 45 minutes of like exercising and then like 45 minutes of stretching. And I just remember like dreading the yoga days. I'm like, I mean, I would dread a lot of it, but I'm like, it's just so long. Like, do we have to do this for an hour and a half? Like 6 days a week? Like,
yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah. And so that's when I started the Body Rock, I was like, okay, she does short workouts, so it doesn't have to be time consuming. I'm going to trash that. We're going to do something short, But now I'm like, I can go on a walk. We kind of discovered biking during the pandemic. So I liked biking during the summer. I was biking with this last pregnancy, which might have been a no-no, but I'm like, I want to. I like it. I'll be careful. It's okay. Yeah, there's so many things like we tell ourselves we can't do that. And I did get some looks on the trail, but it was okay. So just mountain biking up at a place that's close by to us. And it's so fun. And now our mornings are full of carpool and get the kids out the door. So I can't do that. And that's okay. I'm not panicked because I'm not getting in my biking. I still go on Saturdays, and that's been enough. And I'm just stretching right now. I'm just stretching in the closet and trying to do some handstands, practice on splits a little bit. I can still do biking, but biking is not the key. It's something that I love and it's fun.
Yeah.
So none of these things are the key. It's just me and being calm.
Yeah.
And trusting the process. Yeah.
That's so good. I love that you said that. Because even like when we find something we love, like when you love to bike and you're like, oh, I would maybe ideally like to do it more mornings, but I don't need to do it. You don't have like that desperate, like needy kind of energy in your body because you're not like grasping for like, oh my gosh, I need to do this thing because that's the way that I like keep my weight off. And I think there's so much freedom in that because then you don't like need to find a thing. You just do what you enjoy and like what your schedule allows for, and it can change. And like your kids get sick and you can't go that day. It's not a big deal. And then there's a pandemic and you find a different way to exercise. Like it's not a big deal, right? You might miss something, but it's not hinging your body weight on like this form of exercise or this diet.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think shortly before I found your podcast, and I think I found you through a Facebook ad that fall of 2020. And you were talking about the vases. And I'm like, yeah, like that. And that was kind of like the P90X thing, right? I'm working out a ton and I'm hungry a ton. I've increased both of it. So I'm like, yeah, you could just make it all less. So around that time, I just kind of toyed. I'm like, okay, we'll see how this goes. I'm not going to exercise. And I was just doing light stretching at home, kind of like I'm doing now. And the weight didn't change dramatically. So I was like, this is probably okay. Let's see where this goes. And then that's when I found you and started listening to podcasts. That's when I realized it's this food brain thing that's been, and this, diet and exercise brain.
Yeah.
Getting rid of that.
Yeah.
And it's still there. It's kind of like I said, I am strong and my muscles, I think, are still pretty tight. So now that I know the key is also like to relax, like it's taking practice to breathe and to relax, just like it's taking practice to turn off the diet brain and turn on this calm, naturally thin brain.
Yeah, because it is like a new skill, like a new like way of being you're learning. And I can totally relate because I think my body is just, for most of my life, been so used to like just physically being in like a C shape, like it just like shoulders tense and kind of up a little and tight. And like it is like a practice of just reminding myself like we don't have to live that way.
Yeah. And also, as I've been trying to visualize my future self, and I've been there before, so I know what it feels like. But when I think of myself that I'm not there yet, if I let myself think like, I've still got so much weight to lose or all these kind of panicky thoughts, I feel myself doing this C shape, right? I start hunching over again. But if I can think I'm there, I automatically like stand up straighter. My posture's better. I physically change my body shape, to be lighter and happier. Just by the thought, as I practice thinking, I am already there. It is great. And even though I'm not there, I'm going to get there. So I'm practicing, that visualizing my future self. That's been fun and helpful. And I just notice when I do it, when I'm mindful of it and remind myself to do it, it's just automatic that I'm happier and sitting up straight and confident.
It just never ceases to amaze me. Like the power of one thought can like change what's happening physiologically in our body. Like, like our brains are so powerful, and like being able to show yourself that you are kind of in charge of that is, I just think, like the greatest gift.
So, and I was just coached recently and talking about like a real life situation, right? And as we like to think, maybe it's our situations that are causing things. And those situations are real and they are there, but I can change how I think about it. So that was a great thing from being coached last week in the program. The situation is there, but I can be calm about it.
Yeah.
And not turn to stress and panic and worry.
So good. I had so funny. You said calm a few times. I was just thinking about like, how do I show people how to make their naturally thin journey inevitable for them? And I just keep coming back to like, if there's one emotion I can teach people to feel more of and feel on a spectrum of like 0% to 100%, it's calm. Like, how do you feel anxiety and just let even just the slightest bit of calm in, or restless and even just a little bit of calm in, right? It doesn't mean you need to be like a meditation master, like feeling blissfully calm all of the time, right? There's some days where you can feel like on fire and like limitless and infinite and all of the things and like have that sense of calm with that. But then there's other days, like you were saying, like there are situations in our lives that we're not going to feel 100% calm about. But if we could just bring in like 5% calm or 10% calm, it completely changes our experience. And then we don't need the food to distract ourselves, or any distraction really.
I can't remember if you did a few podcasts over the summer about that, but I know in the program we specifically worked on calm. And that was so helpful to me because that was right after the baby was born. And that's usually when I'm like, okay, this is my plan for how I'm going to lose the weight. I've done crazy, stupid things that I regret. Like one of them, as I joined this other program, and after a few weeks into it, I was like, this isn't going to work. Again, thinking, it's somewhere out there. I got to go find it, not realizing this whole time it's me. But it was actually this bodybuilding program because I was like, I want to get abs. I want to be strong. And again, that wasn't with any of the stretching kind of stuff. But so I was lifting these weights and it was not too time consuming, but with the food, like she's told us to eat 40 grams of protein first thing in the morning, because that'll get your metabolism going. So I like ate a block of tofu first thing in the morning, right? To kick in my metabolism. And
sounds amazing.
I'm like, this is insane. And I'm like, and I really I'm not going to go be in any sculpting contest, body physique contest. So I was like, I should not have done this. And I was trying to get out of it. But this program was in Ireland anyway. And I'm like, well, are they going to come in, collections? I don't know. I felt like I might go to jail if I didn't keep paying. Anyway, I was able to get out of it.
We do some crazy stuff.
I joined it without telling my husband. Because I was like, I'm just going to surprise him. I'm going to be there in a year. Because it was like on our anniversary. So this baby, this was with my 12th. He was born in January. My anniversary is in February. So I was like, and that's when I joined it, right? I'm just a month out of having a baby. And I'm like panicked. Or not panicked, but I'm like, we got to lose the weight. And it's going to be a surprise. I'm not going to tell him what I'm doing. Anyways, yeah. So then after a few weeks, and I was trying to cancel this, and I canceled my card, and I was able to finally get out of it with talking to them after my baby was in the hospital, and I'm like, I've got hospital bills. Could we and I'm not doing the program. Could I please get out of this? And when I told them what I did, that I joined this program, it was pretty embarrassing. I'm like, I know I'm desperate. I've got this problem. I don't know what it is. But it's this food brain. So I did feel such relief when I got that in the podcast. That I'm like, I've been attacked by this food brain my whole life. I do crazy things.
I know everyone listening can't see me and you talking, but like, I can't stop laughing with tears, because like, the number of wild things we've all done, like, right? I just cringe thinking, like, I used to do these weird juice cleanses, and I even did like coffee enemas at one point. And I remember my husband being like, you're doing what? Like, what is happening? And I'm like, I just gotta figure out a way. And like, some of the wildest crap to like try to lose weight.
I tried to do the juice cleanse once, and I went and bought the whole $200 juice thing, and I did it like a week, and I actually don't know if I gave that to a donation center, if it's still in the garage somewhere. It might still be in there. But my husband doesn't have this problem though. He does not have this food obsession. So yeah. And once I was trying to explain it, I'm like, food is my enemy, and he's like, we have to feed our children. We need dinner. And I'm like, I don't want to be around it. So it's been a struggle because I've not wanted to make, like dinner has been his big thing. He's like, we need to eat. The kids need. So years ago, also, I bought the book by Dr. Laura. You could be the new Dr. Laura though, right? But Dr. Laura, she had the book, how the proper care and feeding of husbands. Like I bought that book because I thought it was about how to make food to keep your husband happy.
Oh my God.
And it's like a relationship book though, but I honestly thought it was about helping you figure out
I gotta solve this.
Yeah.
I have gotta solve this dinner thing.
How to properly feed your husband so he'll be happy, and maybe I can figure out, for myself what I need to do about the dieting and stuff. Yeah. So it's just been this crazy thing my whole life. And I feel like I finally have been able to recognize that it's just this food brain and giving it a name, knowing what it is, knowing how to go forward with this. It's just been liberating.
Yeah. And I am curious what you would say, like when you think about your past self, like doing the P90X or training for the marathon or half marathon or, like wanting to do the juice cleanse, like searching frantically for the solution everywhere. And now knowing what you know, like, what would you say to her?
Your podcast, like, gratitude for past diets, right? So I am grateful because like one thing with the food combining, I did learn by that. And I am eating this way. I love just having fruit for breakfast.
Yeah.
And that was also helpful because it simplified things. And I like things simplified. Like if I eat 3 pink lady apples, I'm like perfect for a while. Like I don't need all this food. So that helped me realize it could be simple. Yeah. So I'm grateful for the food combining that helped that. But then there's these other parts where I'm like, well, that's not it. But if I'm not following it 100%, it's not going to work. So, I have to go search and try something else. So I have been grateful for the lifelong search and experience. I'm more grateful though that I am there. I wish I would have found it sooner. This should be taught in kindergarten.
I know.
Right. I guess I just sort of you'll find it eventually, just keep going.
Yeah.
I'll try to throw it in your path, before you give up.
Yeah. And I think I'm like glad we talked about some of the things we've all tried because I know people listening can totally relate. But there is like a sense now for me too, like looking at my past self being like you said, like, I'm so grateful you kept going. And like, kind of like with a little bit of a chuckle of like, look at all those things you tried. Yeah. Like, right. And like, so it doesn't matter like how many things people have tried or how long they've been trying. Like, I think sometimes we let ourselves get stuck in the mentality of like, but I've tried for so long. So therefore it's never going to happen for me. And like, for everyone listening too, like when you can really see that it's only ever you, like in the best, most empowering way, like it's the thoughts in your brain and the emotions that you're feeling and like you're your only obstacle. And it's like the best news ever because then you are the solution to that.
Yeah, that's been the key that I never knew was there, but was there the whole time. Yeah. Right. Just lost in all this noise of our, and I don't know what to blame. Sometimes I feel like I'm kind of mad at the whole culture that we're growing up in. I'm mad at the world. But again, all those people who are coming up with these diet books, I mean, it's probably with really good intention.
Yeah.
That they did find something that worked. I mean, I was telling people all about food combining for, a year and a half, but that wasn't actually what was doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that's just the thought I choose to have. I went through a phase of like feeling like annoyed and like kind of a little pissed that like, what's happened? Like, how did I not know this? Like, and then I was like mad at my parents. I'm like, how did they not know? Like, how did they not teach me this? Like, what's happening? And I do think, especially with diets, for the most part, like people have found a behavior that really works for them, like their habits that work for them. And so they want to share it with other people. But when we think that a habit is the answer, we're missing that we're the ones in control of our brain and we're the ones in control of our feelings. And then giving ourselves the freedom of like a particular behavior or exercise routine or way of eating or pattern of eating might serve us now, but it might be different when you're having another baby or when you're breastfeeding or in a different cycle of your life or right, whatever's happening. And I just so strongly believe I can't know what food feels best in your body. Like only you can know that. You're the one in your body.
That it doesn't matter what my kids want to eat or what they don't want to eat or what is being served at a party. it's always you, and luckily you're always with yourself. And so,
Yeah.
so you can do this.
Yeah, you're the best one for the job.
I also remember another video that I saw online, like where they asked, like they just like did a on the street question where they're asking women, if you were to use one word to describe your body, what would it be? And for most all of them, it was like, gross or disgust. Like it's all these negative things. And I was kind of mad about it, but at the same time, that is also how I felt. So I was like, what is the word that I'm going to use for my body? And I found out my word. It's sacred.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I love that it's sacred. I do think sometimes about like, especially more so like with having kids and thinking about my body, not only when I'm pregnant and breastfeeding, but just kind of in between having kids too, is like, it's like a temple of my like divine energy that I want to take care of. And I get the feedback then from my body of feeling energized and alive and vibrant and just loving my own experience in my body. And I just think about like, that's my body's way of thanking me for taking care of it.
Going to the bathroom, or like pain from touching a hot stove, those are your body giving you cues. And that's all that hunger is too. And it's okay. We're not going to die. So that's my counter, like, if my kids, when they were panicked about the vegan meals I was trying at that time, I'm like, we're not going to starve. Like,
yeah.
And that was me like realizing it's okay to be hungry. That was part of my developing a friendship with hunger. It did start during that time. There's food in the pantry down the street. It's not something that we need to be worried about.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel like I know that, and that I'm trying to help that is one thing that I want my family to have a takeaway from my examples. We're going forward. Like, it's okay to be hungry sometimes as we try to make them wait for dinner so we can sit down and enjoy the meal together.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. I tell my kids that too. My 3-year-old, her, like when she's uncomfortable, she'll say, I need to go potty, or I'm thirsty, or I'm hungry, right? That's just her way of communicating that she's somehow uncomfortable with something. And so I'll tell her, it's okay to be hungry. And my husband will be like, can you tell that to a little kid? I'm like, sure can. Just watch me. Right. Like, there is such a societal, cultural, like norm of like, like you don't want to be hungry. Like that's a bad thing. Like from a very early age. And I think now for those of us that are blessed to not have to like actually worry about not having enough food, to now like teach our brains, like it's okay to be hungry. Like we have food in the pantry. Like you said, we have food down the street. Side note, I was actually listening to a research study that someone was talking about where they had rats that they then made them afraid of cherry blossoms. And then their babies were afraid of cherry blossoms. And so their point was fear around certain things in particular can actually be genetic and go through our like genetic lineage. And so I'm like, well, it makes sense, right? That us as humans and like my grandparents like went through the Great Depression. Like it makes sense that they were afraid about being hungry. They had a genuine fear that was very real for them. And so now it could be our time to unlearn that fear when that's not something that we need anymore.
Yeah, I like that. And also just how food is something that we give as a distraction, even for like they learn that as children.
Totally.
And so lots of times, like my 3-year-old right now, he'll come up to us and he'll be like, I want some food, but I know he's just eating. And I'm like, do you want some food, or are you just bored or something else? I'm like, let's go play with your train or something like that. And so it's something that I don't know if it's learned or that is like in the genetic, but it's something that we can take right now and direct in a more productive way.
I even notice it in myself, right? Like I do this for a living. This is what I help people doing. I think about emotions all of the time and food and helping people. And I even notice in my own brain, sometimes I notice I'm like, oh, it would be just easier, right? If to give like a uncomfortable toddler to just give them a snack, right? And so it makes sense that like we get into that habit. And so it's just like teaching them other ways to create their own entertainment or to play or to express their feelings. And I think the more we do that for ourselves, the easier it is for us to show them how to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you brought up being a mom and having kids and believing that your word for your body is sacred, and also allowing yourself to reach your goal weight and like have that be something you're working towards. I do think a lot of times there's a line between, of course, appreciating your body and appreciating what your body can do. And maybe our bodies do look and feel different after having kids. Like I noticed some changes in my body, in my skin, in my stomach in particular, right? And I'm like, I don't need to change that. I don't really care to change that. But also, I can be at the weight I want that feels really good for me. I don't have to kind of like succumb to, well, I'm a mom now, so now I can't feel the way I want to feel in my body. And I just like, I think about it's like all women, but like being a mom and being able to show to your kids that you get to feel amazing in your body and how amazing that is, like when you think of your body as being sacred and how it changes how you help them and how you take care of them and how you are around them. And like, I get way less frustrated and irritated when I'm feeling good.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, let me, before we end, ask you, is there anything else you want to share? Anything else that's on your mind? Otherwise, I have one last question for you.
I've written so many notes, and I was kind of like thinking, there was like about a week ago where I was like, I couldn't go to sleep because I was just writing all these things that I would want to shout to the world. But I think we've covered most all of it. So I'm good for any last questions.
Okay. My last question for you is there any like favorite tool or favorite thing that you could share with someone that they could be like, okay, I'm going to like implement that or take that away or try that or take this and kind of use it right away to create a change for them? Is there anything that kind of comes to your mind?
I would say making friends with hunger. And my brother actually said something a while ago that made me, it was kind of like the key to like, are you really hungry? Are you just bored? Because he's like, if I'm not willing to eat an apple, he's like, then I know that I'm not really hungry.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah. So that's just like a little test. Like, if you are just munching, you do just want the chocolate or you're craving something, are you willing to eat an apple? And so you probably could, and you'll feel good after the apple, but that's just, I thought that was a good little kind of litmus test for it. And again, I do love just eating like 2 or 3 apples a day. The apple day keeps the doctor away, right? I think that was probably a real thing.
It probably was. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause and another thing with having the children, like constipation, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like I have had, like, that's worse than, than childbirth. I feel like sometimes and I've have had problems with that. So like, that was something that I'm like, so that was another thing with another program that I tried, is 6 small meals a day. And it was like all this protein and I just got so constipated. And so I'm like, if I can't live like that. I've got to be able to, things have to be moving through my body. That's my body, again, talking back to me, letting me know what's working. And so again, so like we do mostly eat plant-based now. But even like vegan protein shakes right now, I have some of those. I like the taste fine, but they clog me up. I can't
don't do the
it.
job.
Yeah. So I'm finally, again, it's me. It's me in my head and my body, listening to my body, what my body wants, what works for it, and is what. So I love having apples. And if I can have those, then I'm usually clear and I'm feeling light and energetic.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you said that. I had IBS. I was never like formally diagnosed, but I had all the symptoms of IBS-C. And then no one tells you after you have a baby and you're constipated. And like I had stitches the first time, like insanely painful. Like what is happening?
Yeah.
And I just remember like reminding myself that, oh, that's right. Like simpler allows my body to be cleared out, giving it space and just a lot of water and like starting my morning exactly like you're saying for me and my body with like just some fruit and like not putting a ton of food in there until I am able to eliminate and I am able to poop. Like it just is like, it was such a good reminder for me that like our bodies, they have so much wisdom. Like they want us to feel good. They want us to feel energized and cleaned out and light and airy and all of the things. And so when we develop the skill of listening to them, it's like then we get to reap the reward of feeling really good and cleaned out.
Our bodies are giving us feedback all the time. And one thing that your program has taught me is to not only listen to my mind chatter, but listen to my body, listen to the hunger, listen, all the different ways that our body is giving us feedback. Let's take it all in. And I feel like I'm finally learning about myself.
So good. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I know this is going to inspire so many other people. Friend, if you are loving what you are learning here on the podcast, you have to come check out my Naturally Thin for Life program. It is my on-demand lifetime access program where I teach you brand new concepts not taught here on the podcast. And I will walk you through exactly how to implement all of the tools I teach you here so that they become just a part of you. You will learn exactly how to understand your specific brain and your specific body so that you become naturally thin for the rest of your life and you no longer struggle with your weight. Inside of the Naturally Thin for Life program, you can also receive live help so that you consistently make progress and reach your goal. I will teach you how to accelerate your naturally thin journey in a sustainable way so that the change becomes permanent. The best part is that it's risk-free. You either love it or I will give you your money back. If you are ready to finally be naturally thin for life, join us at lauradixoncoaching.com/work with me. That's LAURADIXON coaching.com and click on the Work With Me tab. I cannot wait to see you there.